Should we get started? All right. I'm going to play a note on the piano so we can start our welcoming song. Good morning, everyone. I am Megan Rancier, and I'll be presenting today's service along with Kelci Crawford. Woohoo! Tina Jones and Lisa Merrill Price and Steve Israel are providing technical assistance. And thank you to our greeter, Bob Rex. Please be aware we are recording this service and it will be posted on our YouTube page. And for privacy, we don't record or post joys and concerns. Okay. I'm just realizing there was a little bit that I was supposed to paste in here and I forgot, but so we gathered together to explore lots of ideas and find inspiration from a number of sources. Folks who may be new to us, please remember, for existing folks, please remember to read our weekly email, which provides comprehensive information about everything going on at MVUUC. Visitors, if you'd like to start receiving our weekly email newsletter, please fill out one of the blue cards found in the seat back pockets and put the card in the box on the greeters table. Let's go ahead and take a minute to greet our neighbors. Okay, our chalice will be lit today by Winnie Rex. Yay. Please join me in reading the words provided for you as we light the chalice. We light this chalice for the quiet truths we carry and for the futures we are brave enough to write. In this circle, we honor the courage it takes to live openly, the softness that sustains us, and the joy and power that grow when we gather. As the chalice glows, may we feel steadiness rise in us. May we trust that our becoming, messy, radiant, unfolding, wholly belongs to us.
Now's the time for sharing of joys and concerns. Tina, please stop recording the service at this time.
Okay, so now we're going to sing hymn number 188 called Come, Come, Whoever You Are. The lyrics of this hymn come from a poem by the Persian Sufi poet Rumi. And because Islam is actually one of our themes today, and it is the holy month of Ramadan right now. I thought this would be an appropriate one. Now, if you know this tune, if you've sung it before, you know that this is usually sung as a round. So I'm hoping that we can try that today. But first, we're gonna all sing it together. Okay, so this is in your gray hymnal, number 188. Okay, so I'm going to play us through this once. Are we ready? Not yet. This is just our practice round, okay? So we're going to sing the melody through once all together, and then I'm going to split us up into two groups. But let's all sing the melody once through together, and this is your first note. And if you want, I can just play it for you. Okay, let's all sing it all together one more time, and then we'll do our two groups. Ready? Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Okay. You got it? Now we're going to try the round. So I'm going to lead the This is going to be group one, and this is going to be group two. I'm going to lead group one. And I'm going to lead group two. Yes. And group two is going to start after group one finishes that first phrase. Yes. So we're going to say, come, come, wherever you are. Come, come, wherever you are. Okay, and for folks on Zoom, I got to see Okay, ready? Here's our tempo. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, whoever you are. Ours is no pleasure of despair. Come yet again, come. One more time. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Beautiful. Good job. I think it's your turn now.
Today's service is based on a recent selection that the MVUUC Intersectional Reading Group read together, titled Hjiab Butch Blues by Lamya H. This memoir, whose title is an homage to the groundbreaking 1993 novel Stone Butch Blues by lesbian author Leslie Feinberg, traces Lamya's journey, first leaving her homeland and moving to a Muslim country in the Middle East. The author never identifies the country she left or the one she arrived in. Then moving again to attend college and graduate school in the United States. During this time, she also begins to realize that she is not like the other girls in her class or at her mosque, and she is filled with questions about whether a queer, non-binary person like her might have a place in any community, but particularly her faith community. As I and Megan will explore more in our reflections, Lamya's search for belonging and self-acceptance is guided by her Islamic faith and gradual understanding that the stories told in the Quran are actually much more inclusive than she was initially led to believe. Today's opening and closing words are excerpts from Hjiab Butch Blues. In the beginning, God created a person made out of clay, not just any clay, black clay. In the beginning, God created a person, a black person, lovingly portioned and shaped. God named this person Adam, and then God breathed Adam a soul, made from this soul her mate. From her, from Adam, this first soul, her mate. Kalaka mina zalwaha, Zurat al-Nisa, the chapter of the women in verse number 1. O humanity, be mindful of your Lord who created you from a single soul and made from her, her mate. Kalaka, meaning created from, mina, meaning from her, Zawjaha, meaning her mate. And God created too this language to teach us. This Arabic, the language of the Quran, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced any of that, in which all words are supposedly gendered. Adam, a name, a masculine word. Nafs, a soul, a feminine word. This person, Adam, the first person created, gendered as both masculine and feminine, created holding both by a God who is neither. This Adam from whom came her mate, Hawa. In the beginning, God created language, and language is power, and naming things is power, and words like he or she or they are all power. The language God gave us hides meaning, adds meaning, and is constantly shifting beneath us, constantly creating our worlds and constantly creating us. God knows this, of course, describes divinity in 99 names that expand language, that collide with the capacity of language to express. Al-Qadir, the one with most perfect power who does not make mistakes. Al-Shahid, the all-observing witness. Al-Haq, the embodiment of truth. And gender is nowhere within these concepts that define the divine. God is neither man nor woman, nor masculine nor feminine, nor not masculine, nor not feminine. This God who teaches us that we can be both and neither and all and beyond and capable of multiplicities and expansiveness. Non-binary, genderqueer, they. This God that is the God, my Allah, who created the world and created language and created the first person, Adam, this first person who was man and woman and neither and both and not a mistake, never a mistake, like me. Queer. This is a word that many older members of the LGBTQ+ community don't like hearing, as it was so often a slur, especially during the AIDS crisis. I will be using this word as many LGBTQ+ people my age use it, reclaiming it from the oppressors and infusing it with our own personal experiences and joy. Genderqueer is a word that for some people sounds new, but in fact is over 30 years old. The word genderqueer was coined in the early 1990s, and I will let that sink in that was 30 years ago. Credited to Ricky Wilchins. The term came about to, quote, describe those of us who were not only queer, but were so because we were the kind of gender trash society rejected. Wilchins wrote, in a society where femininity is feared and loathed, all women are genderqueer. In a culture where masculinity is defined by having sex with women and femininity by having sex with men, all gay people are genderqueer. The term genderqueer has since been adopted as a category of identity, like lesbian, bisexual, etc. For many people, including myself, genderqueer is a third gender. Still others reject the entire concept of gender, and yet others straddle some line between female and male. Genderqueer serves as an umbrella term that can encompass each of these positions. And as a genderqueer person, I have a lot of strong yet complicated feelings about the concept of God. I grew up raised in the Church of Christ faith, but not the fun, inclusive Church of Christ. It was the sort of faith that requested I try to pray my older sister's bisexuality away when I was 12 years old. At the time, I could not reconcile a faith that said Jesus loves me with this command to ask God to change my sister. So I left the church. I also have a lot of complicated feelings about paganism, a faith I picked up shortly after. It too can have its ideas of gender, and that men must act and be a certain way, that women act and be a certain way, and that people outside of those binaries either did not exist or were trying to infiltrate sacred gender-segregated spaces. As a genderqueer person, I struggled to find any kind of faith that not only acknowledged that genderqueer people existed, but that they could be whole and loved and supported by their communities. That they too could have spiritual experiences, and that those experiences were not centered around damning us for being different. An acknowledgement would have been practically revolutionary. So one day, 2 or 3 years ago, I picked up Hjiab Butch Blues and read the passage about God being a genderqueer being. Quote, "I learned something else, how important it is for me to use the pronoun they for God. My God, whom I refuse to define as a man or a woman. My God who transcends gender. I learned that I can remove myself from situations where people aren't interested in this conception of God as genderqueer, of God as non-binary, of God as trans. And I learned that I want to explore what these gender-expansive concepts mean for my own sense of self, too." I thought, finally someone who gets it. I did not realize how hungry I was for a more gender-inclusive interpretation of the Old Testament, the Quran, and other religious texts until I read Hjiab Butch Blues. To be clear, this book is not unique in this approach. There is a contingent of Bible scholars and enthusiasts who approach the scriptures with a queer lens, which I will let folks sit with the fact that there are multiple lenses to view the Bible with besides the main Christian, Jewish, or Muslim denominations. Yes, there are gay people who read the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah and read it in a queer way. But that's not the only thing about Hjiab Butch Blues. It's a memoir of Lamya, a brown Asian woman with a loosey-goosey relationship to gender, whose worldview is strongly shaped by her own genderqueer interpretations of the Quran. Her memoir is a book that explores her connection to her faith and how it shapes her own queer identity. Lamya will have passages in the book that go between recalling details of her own life and passages from the Quran that those of us raised in the Abrahamic faiths will recognize right away. And she finds a way to revisit these scriptures to pull something she can use in her own life as an immigrant, as a queer woman, and as someone deeply shaped by her faith. And many of these retellings are very queer. I'm reminded of the passages where she recalls the story of Asiya, Pharaoh's wife, and how Asiya's story is so often used to encourage women to stay in marriages that endanger not just their happiness, but their safety, because their takeaway is that Asiya was a faithful wife. Lamya takes these passages to instead look at the lens of her life as an immigrant to the United States. Passages where she confesses about being so frustrated with the immigration system that she's considering calling it quits and going back to her old country. Passages where she says, "I don't know what happens to Asiya. I scour the Quran and Hadiths for clues, but there's nothing there, nothing concrete." Passages where she discusses her friends in terrible marriages who had heard the straight version of Asiya's story, but divorced their husbands and rebuilt their lives anyway. And so in her mind, Asiya builds a community of support, of people who can help her escape the abuses of the Pharaoh. People who help her not only escape, but rebuild her life with people she loves. And so Lamya asks herself questions that she imagines Asiya asked herself. Quote, "How can I fight injustices in this place where I have community, where I'm choosing to stay? How can I build a life here that feels rooted in my principles, even if it will never be perfect?" By this point, I think I have lost a lot of atheists in the audience. In my experience, atheists are allergic to anything where any passages from the old scripture could be used for anything where we have things like science and truth and philosophy and other more logical things that could explain the world. But we are people. People love stories. And for Lamya, the stories in the Quran help her make sense of the story of her life. She's not a fundamentalist. Nowhere in this book does she say that people should convert to Islam or read the scriptures to find the truth. For her, her faith is an immensely personal journey. And the book is her way to open the window and say, boy, do I have a new spin on an old story for you. It's her way to invite the reader to see not just the scriptures, but her life in a more heartfelt and personal way. And as a genderqueer person who loved this book, I'm so immensely glad it exists, that we are able to experience not just her story, but the old stories in a new way. May we all listen.
So when Kelci and I do a service together, we like to kind of split the reflection. So Kelci gives their view and I give mine. And I also have to thank Kelci for introducing this book to the intersectional reading group, because I didn't know about it. But I think everybody who read it in the group together really was just so appreciative of it. And so that's part of what I'm going to talk about. The aspect of Hjiab Butch Blues that resonated most strongly with me was the author's recognition of her own experiences and struggles in the stories of the Quran, despite the fact that traditional interpretations of these stories are quite different from her own. Lamya navigates her own path through the Quran to recognize herself in its stories, ultimately finding a more welcoming, inclusive version of her faith through her own personal interpretations. After spending years on this journey alone, Lamya tries numerous times to find a community that validates her identity and shares her understanding of her faith. After several unsuccessful attempts, she finally finds that community, both through the deepening of existing friendships and by connecting with organizations that intentionally worked to create a space for a more inclusive practice of Islam. Although Lamya's story is guided in specific ways by her Islamic faith, I think her experiences are highly relatable to many Unitarian Universalists, feeling alienated by traditional religious practices, having a sense of your own faith, but feeling unsure of where you belong, working to create your own religious and/or spiritual path, and searching for a community in which you can feel supported in your journey. Does that sound familiar? The ways that Lamya navigates this experience through her own faith contains lessons that any of us can learn from, even if you have no particular religious affiliation or belief. The first idea I think is worth considering is that the people and stories that inhabit religious texts can be, and perhaps should be, open to interpretation. Although there are certainly folks who believe in only the literal meaning of these texts, the idea of a literalist stance is definitely complicated by the passage of time, as well as the fact that these texts have to be translated from languages that are often ancient and sometimes are no longer even spoken in the present day. So how can we be fully confident that our 21st century modern English interpretations are identical to the meanings intended by the authors? The possibility of a one-to-one match in intended meaning and interpreted meaning seems so unlikely that at least some degree of personal interpretation seems inevitable. But in any case, the importance of these texts' exact meanings pales in comparison to the importance of their meaningfulness to those who read them. This is why poetry exists, to enable people to use words as an open space in which to connect the imagery, thoughts, fears, relationships, and other experiences of their own lives with those of the author. And if the words of a sacred text can't connect with the lives we are currently living, then how can they possibly provide guidance or insight into those lives? We need to be able to interpret sacred texts, or any text really, in order to make them meaningful for ourselves. Otherwise, they are just pages full of pretty but empty words. And this is one of the things I've always appreciated about Unitarian Universalism, that anything, literally anything, can be a source of inspiration. In Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, it states, quote, "We draw upon and are inspired by sacred, secular, and scientific understandings that help us make meaning and live into our values, end quote. We are not restricted to one text or even one type of text, but instead we are free to find our spiritual teachers in the sources that we feel are most meaningful to us, whether that's a book, a television show, a person you admire, time spent in nature, or experiences of community, just to name a few. And just as Lamya grounds her interpretations of the Quran in a faithful adherence to Islamic principles, UUs anchor our wide-ranging spiritual explorations in a shared belief that these explorations must be responsible and respectful. Our shared values of pluralism and transformation celebrate our core convictions that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology, and that we can collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Finding our own spiritual path can help us to understand ourselves better, but it can only be truly meaningful if it also helps us to become more just, more generous, more equitable, and more loving. In other words, a better member of the world community. Lamya's journey to find herself in Islam leads her to exactly this place in Hjiab Butch Blues, a renewed and strengthened resolve to create a better world. In the author's words, this better world is, quote, this is how she describes it, a world that is kinder, more generous, more just, a world that takes care of the marginalized, the poor, the sick, where wealth and resources are redistributed, where reparations are made for the harms of history, where stolen land is given back, where the environment is cared for and respected, and all species are cared for and respected, where conflicts are dealt with in gentleness, where people take care of each other and feel empowered to be their truest selves, where anger is allowed and joy is allowed and fun is allowed and quietness is allowed and loudness is allowed and being wrong is allowed and everything, everything, everything is rooted in love, end quote. This passage from the book resonates so closely with our UU shared values that Hjiab Butch Blues could very well stand in as a source of inspiration for our own faith tradition. And I think the author would be very happy about that. Because even though we come from different traditions, we are at our core just people who are seeking to know ourselves, seeking out love and belonging, seeking ways to do good in the world. If we all continue learning from each other, we may someday find what we're looking for. May it be so.
Join us as we sing hymn number 194, Faith is a Forest. It's going to play through once, and then we pick up the song. It's a little bit tricksy, so. Because it's based off of a Chinese lullaby?
Folk song.
Folk song? Okay,
Yeah.
Chinese folk song.
Yeah, so if you read music, I would recommend looking in the hymnal and following along. We'll get through it together. So here we go. Hymn 194, Faith is a Forest. tender day. Speak through me in all I do and say. Good job, everyone. We did it. Beautiful.
Now let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this church, which is important to so many of us. We gratefully dedicate this offering to the good of the church and to support the efforts of the Cocoon organization, which provides shelter and resources for survivors of abuse and violence. If you make automatic pledge payments, please place one of the yellow cards indicating this support in the basket. If you want today's contribution to count towards your annual pledge, please put it in an envelope with your name on the front so we know who to credit it to.
Thank you, everyone. So our closing words come from Hjiab Butch Blues, and this excerpt is based on the story of Jonah and the whale. In the Quran, Jonah is called by his Arabic name, Yunus. Yunus wakes up in the stomach of this whale in the sea at night, alone and afraid. He doesn't know how long it's been or where he is. I've always been taught that the whale is a punishment from God for Yunus leaving his people, for giving up. But what if that's wrong? What if Yunus's leaving is not a giving up, but a disengaging to protect himself? What if the whale is not punishment, but protection? In my whale, it's not lonely or dark. There are others here, in this world I'm building for myself, people I have invited in, people whom I love, whom I fight with because I care about them. I'm building this world for people I know will fight for me, whom I fight alongside. Sometimes people come into this whale seeking protection or solidarity or a friend. Sometimes people leave because they want to engage differently. And sometimes we communicate in whale song with others in their own whales, in their own communities, fighting battles of their own. We send sonar signals that vibrate through the waves, traversing oceans and crossing worlds, decipherably only to those who become very quiet, wait, and listen. And sometimes in our whales, we work on ourselves, on our own racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, our anti-Blackness, our heedlessness around disability justice, our defensiveness when called out, our mistakes. We work on ourselves like Yunus, who calls out to God from inside the whale. For 3 days and 3 nights, Yunus lives in the whale. And then God tells the whale, it's time to spit out Yunus. God commands the whale to travel to a remote island with nothing and no one, and deposits Yunus gently onto the shore. God commands a vine to grow over Yunus, one that nourishes and shades him until he regains his strength, recovers, and makes his way back to his people. His people have, in Eunice's absence, converted to Islam, have heeded his call to God and to good. They needed time and space to come to Eunice's words and positions before they adopted them for themselves. Eunice emerges from the whale into a better world. This better world, that is the world I'm fighting for from inside the whale. This world I want to be birthed into. And maybe it's an unattainable utopia. But I've found a few smaller versions of this world. I'm not naive enough to think that we'll reach this utopia in my lifetime, or possibly ever. But I'm also not faithless enough to think that the direction in which I strive doesn't matter, that these smaller versions of the world aren't leading us there.
Please join me as we read the words for extinguishing the chalice. As flame is to spirit, so spirit is to breath, and breath to song. Though we extinguish the flame in this sanctuary, may we tend it in our hearts until we meet again. Before our closing song, we have time for a few brief announcements. Come to the podium if you have one to make.
Just real quick, I believe next week we are planning on doing a closet cleanout and reorganization. So if you have time and the ability to help out, please feel free to join us.
Yeah, that's going to be after church. I have two. So first, we're going to be having our crafternoon again after service today. If you are able to join us, please do so. We're just hanging out and working on our crafts. The other announcement is April 18th. Yes, it's April 18th. It's just Saturday. We're hosting Building Beloved Community Beyond the Binary, which is a space to bear witness to and hold transgender and non-binary people here in this church. It's going to be here at the church. And we're looking for volunteers to help with Zoom stuff and to be greeters that day. And if you're interested in volunteering, or if you even want to attend, because there will be discussion groups, please get in touch with me. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Matt, for setting up that table in the social hall. We have a table where we will be placing things that are up for grabs, looking for a new home. It will change, and next week I imagine we'll have a lot more stuff. We're trying to make more room for all the new stuff we have, so please help with that. Second, y'all come in late, so some of you may not notice that we have this great slideshow before the service that has visual announcements and other types of things. So I'm sure you all read your newsletter and don't need it, but if you ever want to come in a few minutes early, you'll get to see it. And if you want your own message put on it, you just email me at news@mvuuc.org, and I will put it on there for you. Thanks.
Oh, yes. It is Committee Sunday as well as Crafternoon. We will figure out a way to do both.
Second Friday brunch is happening this week, and we'll be at Bob Evans on the northern end of Levis Commons, and 12 noon. If you can come, we will enjoy having you.
Okay, Tina, are there any announcements online? Okay. After the closing song, we invite everyone in person to stay for coffee hour. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be in the gray hymnal on the inside cover.
Yeah, so our closing song is Go With a Song in Your Heart. If you don't know it, you can follow along with that music on the inside cover of that gray hymnal. And here we go. Go with a song in your heart. Go with music in your soul. Live with the memory of a melody. Go with a song in your heart. Go with a song in your heart. Mellow until we meet again. The joy of music is our gift to you. Go with a song in your heart. Live with the memory of a melody. Go with a song. Go with a song. Go with a song in your heart. Have a good day, everybody.
Weave me the sunshine out of the falling rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. Sing it with me. Weave me the sunshine out of the falling, out of the falling. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again, again now. Weave me the sunshine out of the falling, out of the falling. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again.